So we are making a video, and it's not exactly the day that I was wanting to schedule the video on and to make the video, just simply because. But with the end of the daily blessing scriptures, if you've seen the shorts, y'all have noticed that I have had a plant that I have showed at the end of each video. It's been sitting in each video, and I've been showing it at the end of each day. And the plant that I have been showing was a prop that was used in a video that I made on May the 4th. And I did not put a draw attention title on the video, just simply because it was a if you really want to know me, you're going to have to pay attention and go through the videos, because I'm not going to spell it out for everybody. I'm putting part of me in each one of my videos, but that one was a that one was a rough one, simply because of the plant. And it started May the 4th, whenever I started, or May the 5th, when I started doing putting it in the blessing scriptures. But I had a aha, or it wasn't really a aha. That's when the idea for this video started forming for day 15. When I hit day 15, I had a revelation kind of, and it was a very, and I'm sorry, I got a spider that has decided to make its presence known. Hold just one moment. We are pausing the video because I don't want to be distracted watching where it goes. Alrighty, the spider released back outside. Back to my thoughts on the video. My four-legged distraction that has the squeakers, he has been put in a place where he won't be squeaking, so therefore I can, because this one is going to be another one of those. Maybe not as bad as the one on May the 4th, but it's still going to be one. So the what I was saying was day 15, I had an aha moment, or a revelation of a video that I wanted to do. For those that are coming in and not aware, my second husband was one that was in addiction, and he went through rehab. Spaghetti. And he went through rehab that the insurance paid for. 15 days. And that was all that they would pay for. So 15 days, he came out of rehab, and it was basically outpatient. And our daughter, ended up kind of going down the same direction that her father did. Well, she ended up in rehab, and hers was more of a inpatient, and it was more of a religious, foundational. It was more religious based, but it was not by insurance. It was other ways. Well, she made it several months through it, and when the day 15 hit, I thought, there's going to be a difference between 15 days and 30 days. So this is my little plant that I have been showing in my blessing scriptures. This one was the one that was poked beyond, and all the leaves, you can see the leaves. What's left of the leaves? Well, actually, that's the only stem really in that one left. But those were the original leaves. You can still see the holes in this one. This one was one of the, this one and this leaf was one of the original leaves that survived. And that's how much it has grown. See, today is day 31, May 4, so 27, that's 27 days of growth since it had been basically rescued and put into protection, or put into, we'll just say rehab. Day 15 or day 19, which would be 15 days from, all of this green was not up there. But that just shows you that whenever a person goes in rehab, or to begin working on them, they recognize that there's something going on and they're seeking help, that what's been going on with me going through the Celebrate Recovery and the Al-Anon due to husband number 2, ex-husband now, that we all have problems, and I'm not gonna pull my chart up and all yet. But there's a difference between just 15 days in rehab and 30 days. Now, this is the growth from being preserved and kept in a safe place and watched over and taken care of after it has been put through something. Well, this one was planted at the same time. These are both banana peppers. And as you can see, this one that has not had the whatever the addiction was or the abuse was, is so much taller than this one. It's still growing. It's still doing what God created it to do, but it's not as far along as this original one was. And as you can see, this one actually has a bloom on it. It has a flower, and once the flower dies, it should start a banana pepper there. Start producing fruit, visible. This one's not there yet. But I wanted to show that to address this one of the Celebrate Recovery things, pamphlets that I have, that it's not as visible as sometimes the abuse or what the addiction is or what the harm is not visible, like drugs, like alcohol, like domestic violence. This one, there are other ones, and the one that I'm referring to is like and it's the pamphlet that I've read from several times for the steps. The physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. A lot of physical can be covered up. Bruises can be covered up. People can look at somebody and they would never know that they are physically abused, or never know that they are emotionally abused. And a lot of people use sarcasm as an excuse for abuse. And then you have the sexual abuse that can't be seen. That's not visible. It doesn't have the visibility like some others do. The drugs and the alcohol cannot be visible. But with anything, over time, your quality of life deteriorates. And the emotional is one that I struggle with, that I was basically, I have prayed to be a generational curse breaker. to stop passing down, to stop what I passed down. And unfortunately, I passed it down to my 3 from what I was raised in. There's a poem that I have read, and I'm going to read it again. This by Dorothy Law Nolte from 1972, and it's titled, "Children Learn What They Live." If children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with hostility, they learn to fight. Yeah. If children live with ridicule, they learn to be shy. If children live with shame, they learn to feel guilty. Being a deacon's daughter in a deacon's home, God doesn't approve of that. What do you think God? And I got a lot of the religious rules thrown at me, quite a lot, to shame me and put me in my place where I told the line. I couldn't go beyond. If children live with encouragement, they learn confidence. If children live with tolerance, they learn to be patient. If children live with praise, they learn to appreciate. If children live with acceptance, they learn to love. If children live with approval, they learn to like themselves. If children live with honesty, they learn truthfulness. Children learn what they live. And if there's no other examples or role models coming alongside and guiding them and directing them, what they learn in that house is what's there. It's their foundation that they build on. And I have realized that and I go back into, that's why I married while I was still a senior in high school. Those videos are out there. I'm not quoting them, and I'm not giving titles. If you really want to know me, you'll take the time and you'll search those videos out. But I reshared a piece of paper, a picture that I had on my YouTube page that was of a triangle. And this was a piece of paper that my counselor gave me. One of the last few times that I went for my counseling sessions. And I recognized a lot of me in all 3 corners of it. And I recognize now that and when I look and I recognize me in it, I can see it in my upbringing. And I can still continue seeing it. You've got the persecutor, the persecutor, which is the bully, the one that persecutor, there's a drama mode and then there's a challenger mode for persecutor. Persecutor, when in drama mode, is critical, puts other people down, blames and points fingers, keeps the victim down. They're driven by anger or resentment. They're rigid in thinking. They're bossy and dominating. Those are just some of the little descriptions underneath in the drama mode. And all 3 of them have drama mode. And then you have the rescuer. And a lot of us as codependents, that's us. We're the rescuer. But we can hop from rescuer to persecutor very quickly. Rescuer, when in drama mode, provides support when it's not wanted, provides support when it's not asked of them, feels guilty and anxious if he or she doesn't rescue someone, feels connected with the victim while the victim is dependent on them. Rescuing others creates a sense of being capable, meaning they find their worth in it. Often expects to fail in the rescue mission. A lot of people that I have recognized, they start off as the persecutor, creating the situations and creating the situation in another person's life so that they can swoop in and they can be the rescuer. It's called trauma bonding, Stockholm Syndrome. A lot of people do that. They create situations, they create problems, and then and completely a blind eye. Nobody knows anything about it but the victim. The victim, when in drama mode, feels oppressed, hopeless, ashamed, powerless, incapable, and misunderstood, seeks to hook up with a rescuer to validate the above feelings, refuses to make decisions, solve problems, get professional help, do self-care, or change. Victim that becomes more of a survivor-thriver, uses problem-solving ability, states clearly what she wants, keeps agreements by following through on his or her part, examines self to determine healthy way to get healthy, not persecuting or rescuing, healthy. Examines self to determine healthy way to get what is wanted. Acknowledges strengths and what is going well and remembers his or her ownership for his or her life. Now you have the persecutor and you have the rescuer. If they're inflicting harm on a victim and they're creating situations, they're tag teaming or they're hopping from one corner to the other, creating situations. If the persecutor is creating a situation for the victim so that they can swoop in and they can be the rescuer, when the victim calls them out on it or says something or sits down and tries to have a conversation and tell them that what they're doing and the persecuting is not right, this one, the persecutor or the rescuer, immediately runs into victim mode. How dare you? I wouldn't be doing that. I don't do that. I care for you. So they immediately shove themselves down there in victim. So they hop around through all three corners of this triangle. Whereas the victim down here is trying their best to hold, maintain, work themselves, self-care, to make their life better. But you got these two up here on the top, these two positions that feel justified while the victim stays down here in this position as a victim. They don't ever come out, because in the middle of the triangle it says we move around the triangle until one of us comes out and into a clear and healthy communication. Now, when you come into a clear and healthy communication, or you try to have healthy communication, or you try to begin addressing, because a lot of times those of us who have been traumatized and put through the ringer, we're still working on trying to find our ground and trying to find our voice and trying to process and work through in a healthy manner. But whenever you've got those that have operated in persecutor and rescuer for all their life, and that's all they know, and they will not listen to anybody else's opinion and anybody else's input, then whoever is trying to grow and trying to become independent and trying to be a healthy person becomes the villain. They become the problem. They become the source of contention. They become monkey in the middle of everybody. And unfortunately, there's a lot of us out here, a lot of others. I'm only speaking for me. And by the way, I should have prefaced this video with a disclaimer that I am not a person that has been schooled or has took classes or is a know-it-all and speaking on what happens with everybody. I'm speaking from my own personal experience and my own observations within my own life. And everybody's story, everybody's experiences is different. You know that children learn what they live. I've been divorced twice. I've been married. I've been divorced twice. I have one child from my first marriage. I have 2 children from my second marriage. And I have shared in a previous video that within the past year, I have went kind of no contact with my parents and restricted the contact between me and my children. For years, I would send a daily text to anybody, mostly my parents and a couple of aunts and my children. They would get a daily text. Well, I stopped, and that you learn. You don't want to accept it, but you learn. And my dad still texts me every day, and even though I've went no contact, he still texts me. But it's because of my mother. If you've watched through my videos, you will hear the story of my first child with my mother and my mother-in-law. You will hear that story. A little further into that story, my mother-in-law was the one that pushed and had the DHR involved with my firstborn. The children learn what they live. When you recognize what the environment you're in, you can either choose to stay in it. And I could take a toothpick, because that's we're looking at this plant right now as it's still in rehab right now, or it's removed from the environmental, because in the recovery rooms, it's you change your playgrounds and you change your play friends. When you're wanting to get better, you have to make a change. So what I could do is I could get a toothpick and I could go back to poking on these leaves, and the growth will stop, because it's still being exposed to the same things going on. I don't want to hurt it anymore. I kind of want it to produce. I kind of want it to get to this point to where it's producing flowers for somebody. I've got mine planted in the ground. They're not producing flowers yet, but until you want to get better, and sometimes we have people attached to us that is still poking. We can keep them at arm's length, but they still have access. They're still poking. They're still doing things. And yes, I recognize and I realize that I'm still attached to certain pokings. I recognize that, and I'm just waiting for God to open that door, because when that door opens, there won't be. It'll be, the pokings may come from something else, but it won't be as harmful as what's going on right now. With that triangle, with the persecutor, a lot of times you can't prove. You have to be really, really meticulous and really, really dedicated to write everything that's going on. And even then, like with my second divorce, it's all in who they know, or how many strings they can pull, whether they'll be believed, or whether they will actually have the accountability held or not. Because when the divorce was finally finalized, it was supposed to be supervised visitation. It was with family. It just all depended on, there was connections. And as a mom or as a dad, if you've got somebody that is not I'm not gonna say leave them, but I am gonna say talk to God, because I struggled with that second one, and I'm still catching hell from the, he was in addiction and I left him, I abandoned him. But I talked to God, and God made it abundantly clear, not just one time, but there were a few times that He made it very clear that it was needed, that the separation was needed. Again, children learn what they live. If you continue allowing it around your children, they will pick it up. And it will take, if they pick up the bad, it will take God and a lot of prayers to redirect them back to where they need to be, back to where God created them. And only God knows what they were created for. But with the emotional, a lot of the emotional is words. Or betrayals, or put downs, or exclusions. But a lot of it's words, though. And I just want to leave in this video with some scriptures that I want to read from Matthew chapter 12, and this is Jesus speaking, and it is the NLT version. Verse 33 through 37. A tree is identified by its fruit. Like this banana pepper. It will be identified as a banana pepper. Or better yet, this one with the bloom on it. This is a banana pepper, but we will know for a fact that it is a banana pepper when the pepper forms on it. A tree is identified by its fruit. If a tree is good, its fruit will be good. If a tree is bad, its fruit will be bad. You brood of snakes, how could evil men like you speak what is good and right? And he's talking about the Pharisees. For whatever is in your heart determines what you say. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. And I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day. Judgment Day. But if you recognize it before, it'd be a good thing to do it before. Verse 36, and I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you speak. The words you say will either acquit you or condemn you. No, I wanted to wait 30 days. Oh, and here comes the storm in. I wanted to wait 30 days to show a full 30 days of growth on this. 15 days, just 15 days was barely enough for it to start recovering really good. But 30 days, it's got way more leaves on it for it to grow and for it to really begin thriving. So just even a month away from the bad and the negative, and you have the healthy. There's not a safe place for those who have mental illness. Well, there kind of is and there kind of isn't. But with emotional abuse or spiritual abuse, that's another one. I don't think there's a pamphlet on that one. If there is, I'll find it and I'll figure. If there's one out there, I'll find it now that I've mentioned it, because there is spiritual abuse too. Because that was that last organization that I was attached to. I'm hunting my place, but whenever the spiritual gets involved and the spiritual abuse gets involved and it's pertaining to your health and your mental and the persecutor, they're persecuting, they're restricting, they're doing a lot of things in order to try to, because I'm in the victim, so that way they can rush in and they can rescue. And unfortunately, I've had family members do that too. And it's hard to walk through those. And it's hard to come back from those. Because there are no safe places. Especially if you try to talk about what you're walking through or what you are being put through. Everybody thinks, oh, they're saints. They don't have anything going on. But yet, behind closed doors, or passive-aggressively, and I've heard the word covert aggression, where it's outright open. I get more of the passive-aggressive. When you have those that push you to the point and want to shove you over the edge and not even acknowledge what they're doing, or just kind of slough you off in a corner. But God, but God, there have been so many nights and so many days that if God hadn't have been there, there wouldn't be me, and there wouldn't be this channel, and there wouldn't be. But God. So I'm one of those that I am all about Jesus, because I know what my Jesus has done for me, and I know that he's got me. Even though the world is doing their best and the devil's working through them to knock me down and keep me knocked down, I'm awake for another day, and I'm continuing. But I've still got the pokes going on. You just don't see them. It's 36 minutes. Oh my God, this video's going to take forever to load. I will talk to y'all in another video.